Right, moving on to pens now. I've just got these ones, different sizes, extra small and upwards. I don't know how many of them I'll use, but I'll just have them to hand. I'll probably start with the medium one actually. So I've got my apple still. And I'm just going to draw. So just sketch your main shape again, always looking. Remember, every few seconds at the object and a few seconds at what you're doing. Sometimes I'm carry on sketching while I'm still looking. So I'm just going to draw the main basic elements. So I've got the stalk and a little bit of shadows there. So you can just use one pen if you want to do the whole thing, but I'll show you the different thicknesses anyway. So like I said, the way to cross hatch is to go with the flow and the shape of the apple. So I'm just going around it. Remember, I've got a reflective shadow I showed you earlier when I did the pencils demo, which is basically again the light bouncing off the surface onto underneath here. It's not a shadow, it's reflective light. I keep saying shadow. So I'm just going up. This is some markings really. There's some sort of, so there's brown marks. You can put things like that in if you want. So thinking about that shape again, just putting, it's quite light up this area. Again, getting darker with those cross hatching, but all the time thinking about the shape of the apple and how you can represent that. Don't go too dark when you've got something there. I nearly did. Just think about how you want to portray the darkest element and then make sure you don't cross hatch too heavy around it, otherwise it won't show up. Now you have to really think ahead with ink because you can't rub this out like you can the pencils or charcoal. Actually, I might show you some charcoal just quickly. It's really nice and quick. I am going to put a little bit of cross hatching where the reflective light is, because it isn't bright as much as the paper. Just keep adding lines really until you get your tones. So like I said, it's quite light there, so I don't really want to go darker than that there. It's difficult with this apple actually. I try and pick one of the same colour because I've got the dark markings of the red against the green. Or maybe draw an egg or something that's all one colour but spherical, so, or round, so you can just get used to what to do with the shading. That you're not getting preoccupied by any markings and tones. So I'm just going to move on to, I think this is a really thick one, yeah. So I've got a couple of pens. That's quite thick actually. I'll try it, but obviously try things, and if you're not happy with them, you don't have to use them all. So I'm going to use it on the darker, but I'm not necessarily going to draw the whole thing round with that. Just looking at the darkest points. It's really quite dark in there. Underneath here. Now, that shadow is actually dark. I shouldn't have really done that. So what I'll do is I'll make the apple a little bit smaller. Because I was gunning ahead and hadn't realised. But there's always ways you can adapt things. Right, that's a bit thick now. I'm going to go back to probably a medium. The one I was using earlier, and just get those thinner lines in where the shadow's slightly more hazy there at the edges. So I didn't want to use the thick pen because it's dictates it being quite thick, and you can't make it lighter or thinner. See, I'm doing it flat here. This is the way that the table is. It's flat, so just trying to replicate that. If I did it all at an angle, it would look like the apple's placed on something that it should roll off of. So just think about your surface. So you can really go in with even a medium pen. Just doing that little, there's a really lovely dark section there. Again, try and avoid actually drawing physical lines. I'm just adding to that so it's not just a continuous line, unless you want to, of course. It's a personal choice, but I try and avoid outlines. I rather see it rather as lights and darks rather than an actual shape drawn. Again, I'm keeping that light purely because that's one of the lightest areas on that apple. There's actually a sort of darker section here which I've missed, so I'm just going to go back. See, all the time you should be looking at your subject, not just presuming, but really looking. The amount of sketchbooks I filled at art college just for observation, but kind of pays off. At the time it doesn't feel like it, but really it's really important to observe things. You could go on and on and on, but I think I'll stop there. So that's the pen